City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! Special beyond special.
Best player in the Premier League.
Captain Marvel. Drogba! Rooney! Oh, wonderful! That is one Derby diamond.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's match day.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Clash of Clubs. We got a little match reaction here. Big game this past weekend. Arsenal 2, Man City 2. We are here with Mila. Dylan is still out on sabbatical. So we have our resident Arsenal fan, Facundo, back with us. I'm just going to primarily try and let Mila and Facundo chat out what they saw this weekend, and then we'll get into Chelsea a little bit later. Of course, I have some words to spew regarding that, but more importantly, let's get started with Arsenal Man City. Obviously, ended up as a draw, but a lot of talking points coming out of that game. So I guess we'll start with our guest, Facundo, if you want to just kind of give us your general thoughts on what you saw and what you thought of it.
15 minutes was kind of a little scary just because I thought City would end up the way they started, kind of running away with the game. After that, we settled down. The Calafiori goal really helped to settle down. Big moment in the match. And then even then, I thought it was pretty even up until the last 10. From the 35th minute up until the 45th minute, I thought we were playing really well. Scored the goal off the set piece. And was just kind of cruising into halftime, and 30 seconds before Michael Oliver decides to make that decision, and that changes how the game's played in the second half. Can't really do much. I thought the way we set up to defend for the rest of the match was probably the only way we were going to get a result. And they defended brilliantly. And then it's kind of hard to blame them, What was it, 98th minute? They're dead, they're tired, and they fall asleep. Jack Grealish does a really good job of changing the pace of the play. Takes the corner quickly, which I have my frustrations about because they never really took corners long in the second half. Every corner was short, so it was something that you should be expecting, but when you're defending for however long, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, 56 minutes, whatever it was, they shut off and City equalized, and that was pretty much it. I mean, from an Arsenal perspective, I can be disappointed that it's not 3 points, but I'm not necessarily disappointed for the first time, specifically after we equalized at 1-1. That was the first time where I've seen us not be afraid of this team. So, yeah, I mean, it's a moral victory in the end to go in and get 2 points when you're down 10 men. But I don't know. I thought it was still a pretty good performance from us considering the circumstances that were placed upon us by Michael Oliver.
I hate the blaming of the ref. I think it's bullshit, honestly. If you want to look at everything that he did, he was shit. Correct. He's a shit ref. Most of the Premier League refs are going to be crap. A lot of the things he did led to the position that you were in the game also. Swayed both ways. The whole Calafiori goal, fucking bang. Not going to take that away from him. Great goal, great statement goal. And then he calls Kyle Walker out of his position, doesn't let him go back to his position, and then that's when the goal happens. That's where the goal comes from. That's one. The Gabriel goal, I don't care. I don't even think I'm not complaining about it. I've seen football Twitter complaining about it. There was contact. We got it called off against Allison. I think it's all fucking bullshit to look back on that. So I don't want to blame the refs at all in this game. I understand where Arsenal fans are coming from, and I understand where City fans are coming from, but I really think there's other things to look at. Arsenal sat back a lot of the game for me. Obviously, that takes a lot in the second half. We're attacking most of the time. In that first half, we did look a little better, and we were getting shots. I think we looked a little more dangerous, and the guys that we wanted to get shots were getting the shots, and that's why we looked dangerous. The second half, they're all fake. It's fake numbers, inflated numbers. Ruben Diaz took 5 shots. Kyle Walker took about 4.
You had 13
Akanji took 2 to 3.
Back line that generated 0.27 XG. So yeah.
What were they doing?
Kyle
I
Walker was
don't I
living
don't
the
know.
dream, man. He was living the
Not
dream.
my dream. He's gonna get benched for Rico. That's the main
Him,
thing.
him being responsible for that second goal was embarrassing. Like
He's
seeing the
okay.
first one, you guys saw it real quick. 10 minutes before, I believe, when they had a corner, Doku was marking Gabriel in a similar setup, and they almost scored. He missed the open goal. Thought he very well could have put that away. So then it makes sense. Okay, let's put a defender on to mark Gabriel this time, who's obviously the danger man there, and he's poking at him, and he just gets a ran pass, like just embarrassing from Kyle Walker. But I think we probably all agree on that he doesn't belong in that starting 11 anymore. But
I don't have a problem with him getting jumped over by Gabriel. He's a threat and he's an aerial
in the
threat.
way it
Kyle
happened,
Walker is not that guy to shut him down. The way it happened exactly. Like, what are you doing poking his stomach? And then you're gonna get turned around to let him have an open header. It wasn't even a contested header. That was the main thing that bothered me. Like, do
it's
your fucking job
inevitable.
and just
It
stay
is
in front of
inevitable
him.
with them.
Like,
Me,
why are
it
you
remind-
poking him? Put a body on him. He's never gonna turn you if your hip is on his hip. Like, it's not possible. I don't know. He was the biggest thing for me. I think Pep got it really wrong with him. I think we definitely could have used Rico in the tight spaces. I think along with a Foden would have made sense. You
I
guys
thought
defend really well.
Pep had a strange game for
He
his
had a
standards.
stinker. He had a
Yeah,
fucking stinker. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you could have maybe subbed off some of your center backs earlier and brought on different players because we literally made no attempt to even attack, which I agree with. Like, we've seen teams do it even when they're playing 11v11 and they're still trying to take something out of this game. And City's just too good to do that. And I thought, I'm not blaming the ref. It's a bad decision. Affected how we played in the second half, but we still should have had 3 points with how we played. It was just we fell asleep at the end because they were exhausted, and that's how it goes. My issue with it is that it was the exact same ref in the exact same fixture last year that the reasoning behind not sending Kovacic off for the second yellow was because the ref didn't want to intervene in how the game was played. And I'm sorry, I'm so tired of these like second yellows for whatever delaying the restart
So
or whatever it
funny.
is. Like when you watch that live, forget like watching the replay and like no audio and you see like Michael Oliver put his whistle in his mouth and then it looks like a couple seconds later Trossard kicks the ball away. If you watch it live, it was like whistle, not even a second later, Trossard just kicks the ball away. Like I'm not going to argue if he's playing it for Martinelli or Havertz or whoever. I don't know. I was just really disappointed in the lack of consistency, which is what it is. And until I see someone else get a second yellow for delaying a restart, which it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen ever again this year. Like I'm whatever, I'm just mad about it. That's the saltiest part of the entire game. Like I have no issue with how we played. I have no issue with the result. It's just the official wanted to intervene and it was the most annoying thing ever. Your point, I do think that like Rico would have helped a lot in that game if he had played, specifically in the second half.
Propaganda.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the ref really pisses me off.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking maybe just when I was watching that whole second half, like nothing was changing. And I know one of you mentioned it a little bit ago, but why aren't we switching up a bit? Like, again, zero attempt to attack. So why aren't those three players handling it like it was a Kanji, Diaz, and Walker? Have Foden and two other. I know Foden kind of later in the game was back there, but why are they still the ones getting those touches? Because if you have threatening players on the ball there, are they going to let you get those shots off uncontested? Probably not, and you're going to force a move from them. But they were so comfortable there. Obviously, they had to work for it, but it was just the same thing. They were so okay with those guys looking at shots. Like Kovacic scored a banger against us, but that's his yearly banger, right? Like he's not doing that again. He's no threat to shoot. We know that. So I don't know. That was a little frustrating too, but maybe again, like bring on the Grealishes and Fodens earlier. But I don't know. They got their point.
I think and it's just tough because of the way I think structurally, like Mikel set it up almost to perfection. Like part of me thinks that regardless if it's a center back or like it's Foden there, like those are just low quality chances. And like if we're just going to continuously give up shots from the outside of the box, regardless if it's a center back or not, like I'm completely okay with that. it just felt like in certain moments you just needed like what Grealish did. He finally took someone down the line. And like they needed more of that. And I don't know, at a point in the game, like I was thinking, why aren't you putting the ball in the box like for Holland to get on? But Saliba and Gabriel were immense. Raya's immense at claiming crosses. So like it almost felt like City was trying to find an answer. And maybe this is just me having a biased take, but it almost felt like for the first time in Pep's career, like he didn't have an answer to the puzzle he was trying to solve in that specific situation, which was a little shocking because Pep usually always has answers. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what Mila's take is on it. Obviously, I think if you have Foden and stuff, you probably create more chances and you feel a little bit better about having the ball in those areas with those players. But I just think it's still low quality chances at the end of the day.
No, I agree. I mean, hold on. We took like 33 shots? 33 total shots.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you how many of those were actually good shots outside of the goals. And maybe the rebounds for the goal, second goal. But I don't know. It was just, I think everything you said was correct. He kind of seemed like he was struggling to figure it out. I do think a little bit of that comes down to the Rodri injury that causes a little bit of a change up in how he's trying to do things. On top of that, you guys do game plan to shut down Holland. Gabriel and Saliba make it a point. We got away with one, and I don't think he was going to get a second one that game. That's when we need like the wingers to come in and do something and get a GNA type of thing. But they're not doing that unless it's to Holland right now. He's our only output for goal. And I think that's another thing that he needed to solve. So it was kind of having two things to tend to at once. And the Rodri thing was kind of unexpected. Super unexpected. The other one probably knew that was going to happen. But if we had a little bit more control in that midfield, someone like Rodri who could just freaking rip one, that's one of the guys that I would like ripping one.
Yeah.
Foden, like we were saying, probably one of the guys. I think Rico, not even taking a shot from out there, but just the way he controls the ball in the tight spaces and moves the ball around, I think you could get him to move behind you guys somehow. It's going to be like a quick breakdown of play. But I don't know. The way we did it was underwhelming. I don't want to see Walker play in big games anymore. He can play in the cup games. I don't know what we're gonna do for Rodri. It's hard to like all the guys that we can replace him with are super talented. I can't say any of them are shit, but they're not Rodri. So it's gonna be hard to fill that gap. We're definitely gonna have to change our style. But the lucky thing is that he wasn't playing in the beginning of the season, so we have an idea of how to go about it, and I think we just need to hone that as it goes on. And I want to say we'll be okay, but any big hopes in like Champions League might be out the window for now.
Still think Gundo's a massive signing for you guys, like even now with hindsight.
But you have to think about what the midfield looks like without Rodri. If you don't put Stones in there to make up for that size and strength, it's a really old, and they're not the fastest midfield. They're not the strongest midfield. So they're really smart and talented, but I don't know if they'll get the job done in some of these games and in the bigger games.
Off the top of my head, it's got to be some sort of double pivot with Stones and Rico Lewis, because I think even Rico Lewis, he played a lot as a 10 last year even, so you can start him as the midfielder, you can start him as the right back, invert him in. Stones has obviously inverted from center back. Just there's ways that can be worked out, and obviously Pep's the guy you want in this situation to try and figure it out. It's a puzzle to be solved. Kovacic looked really good to start the year, but it is interesting. It's very tough player to replace.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like outside of
I thought he had some.
I
I guess, I mean, we've talked a lot about what happened in the game. Obviously, there's more talking points after the game. There was some chat, and I know Facundo, you've talked to me about it a little bit on the side, as of you, Mila, so I kind of know where both of your guys' heads at, but I do kind of want to hear, because I think it is important. This game happened early in the season. Us knowing these are more than likely the two teams that are competing for the title. So it was interesting to see them kind of come at it. We're used to these Pep and Klopp love fests, and now we're starting to see some spicy. So thoughts,
I'm a
boys?
big fan of.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Like I like the fact that I left that I'm so excited for this return fixture, by the way, because before then it wasn't like a hatred for City. It was just like I want to beat you. Now I actually don't like you. And for me, I think that's massive because it just adds a little bit to when we play these games. And I think our team like still like with City, probably two of like the biggest like athletic, like scary type of like profiles that you can have in some of your players. So like I like the fact that there's this chippiness to it. I was telling Grant this, and like I understand that this guy has 100 goals in 105 games, and he's a machine. And if he doesn't join you, what is it, 2 years ago, you probably don't win the treble and like all of this stuff. I do find it like, and I'm all for shithousery. Like we have Ben White, like I see it religiously, and like Kai Havertz, and like these guys are doing this all the time.
It's gone.
I just do think it is a little childish at the end of the game to go up to the opposing manager and like say like be humble and all this stuff when like you're celebrating. Granted, I would be celebrating an equalizer at the last minute, but you played against a team with 10 men like for 45 minutes, and in the last 3 games you haven't beaten them. So to go up and say that statement right after, I think is a little bit childish. To Grant's point, he can talk the shit that he wants because he's earned the right to talk shit. But at the end of the day, like I'm okay with being pissed at that and having more fuel from when we play at the Emirates at the end of the year. But I do like the fact that we have this kind of like intense rivalry because for me, like this sounds weird. Growing up, I always used to hate United more than Spurs. It's because Spurs isn't challenging for anything. Like they're whatever. Like I hated United. I like the fact that now there's another team at the top that we're competing against, and there is this like bit of like hatred. They don't like each other. And I think that's a respect thing from you guys. Like I do think that you guys look at our team and think they can cause us some problems and like they are here to stay. So like I take it as a sign of respect, but I also do like the fact that these guys don't like each other now because I was tired of the 0-0 completely structured chess match. And like that game, people are not going to like the second half, obviously, because the team's playing with 10 men and they're defending for
First half was great.
minutes. First half was great, but overall, like I loved everything about that game from start to finish. And even after the match, what happened, like I was pissed, but that's a good thing. Like I want that.
Okay, I have a lot to respond to. With the Holland stuff, I think the guy's like 24 years old. It's not that deep to me. He doesn't like you guys. I think there's a deeper thing to that where I don't think he respects you guys at all. So in my response to like what he did, like be humble, what did you guys do? You had Gabby Jesus come up to him to talk to him. I don't know. It seems like a lot of talk
in that situation, though.
It's a lot of talk afterwards from the players. It's like, oh, we're waiting.
I heard Gabrielle
said
back.
Something. Like, there's a long fucking season until we play you guys again. You got a lot of fucking work to do. You got goals to score. Like, I don't want to hear the talk, especially when they're not going to do anything in the moment. Holland, like, he stood there though. He stood there right in front of all your guys and fucking talked his shit. And none of your guys do anything about it. De Bruyne fucking hit McKellen, took the ball from him. None of you guys do anything about it. You have to protect your manager. I don't know. That's
because Mikel was telling them not to.
Game's gone.
It's a rivalry. I think this is how it's going to be.
It is fun. It is fun. I like that it's
I don't see anything like out of line with what happened after the game. I fucking love it. This is what it should be like if we're going to compete for titles. I don't think anyone should be bent out of shape by it, and I think everyone should just take it as a challenge and go with it. It's fun. Like, this is what the Prem should be about.
I did want to just make one more point too. What I kind of talked to Facundo a little before we started recording. I thought the tone was set right away, right? Like Havertz just running into Rodri, knocking him over. Regardless how you interpret that, like, oh, he went down easy, whatever. Like, Havertz did know what he was doing. He has a history of doing these things, and he goes, this is the tone he wanted to set. for his team. Whether the whole team knew about it, whether it's just him going, I'm going to just do this, it happened. The tone was set. This is how we're going to play. So, yeah, I feel like the game played out how it should have played out in terms of the emotions involved.
Yeah.
It's meant to be heated.
And both sides know what they're doing. Like, one, we're trying to establish that they're not scared of us, and they're trying to establish that they do not fear us, which is how it should be. Like, Bernardo's post-game comments about how, like, different the matches are from, like, Liverpool to them and, like, that kind of
You
stuff.
guys
Like,
injured Rodri, so someone has to fucking say it. That guy was on a flight to Barcelona already.
so then Rodri last year saying that, like, they played a draw, like, they played a drew, all this stuff. Like, I find it annoying, but, like, I'm not here to, like, complain about it. Like, there's a reason it's annoying. It's because part of it is factual, you know? Like, last year we did go there to draw. Before this game, our games were very boring, and we were kind of a little hesitant to go at City. This is the game that changed it, and this is what I expect moving forward, and I'm excited to see it. Like, I hope Pep stays even longer now. Like, I want these to be a lot of fun. I want them to be the chess battle that they are, with some entertainment and with emotion, like this game was. So, yeah, I mean, Kai started off, he set the tone for the game, and then it went from there. So, like, again, just thought the reaction afterwards was childish, but, like, he's allowed to do whatever he wants.
A lot of passes completed as well for Havertz.
Okay.
I do want to
Unreal.
hear
I
about
have
this.
to
I've
address
heard it from a couple
Unreal.
Arsenal
I
fans.
have to address this.
It's just so
because
funny, bro. It's so funny.
It's not even like Chelsea fans and just Grant that does this. It's everybody on Twitter. Like,
Of
finds
course,
one
when someone
bad
has
game.
zero passes
Yes.
in the midfield that
Let
looks
me tell
bad.
you who else
no,
had
I know.
zero passes the entire game. The entire team. Like, the entire team had to play this way for a half. Like, this idea that we're just going to single
You didn't
out
get
one
kickoff?
player who
You
plays
didn't get
well.
kickoff, bro.
I also think it's BS because I remember at one point Raya sends a long ball, he chests it down, then plays it out wide to
We
Son.
need a stat correction. Give Havertz his pass.
I don't
65
care.
million for a pass.
I find it I just get annoyed at Grant. Like, I have to address
Well, of course,
it. But,
man.
like,
He's awful, though. He's an awful.
I don't think he's as bad as rival fans act like he is. Maybe I'm a little higher on him than I should be, but
In all
think the
seriousness, with
constant
Havertz,
hate that he gets is absurd.
in all seriousness, I mean, the floor was very low for the 3 years he had with us. I mean, he was atrocious. He genuinely, like, I'm not even. He has definitely been more successful in his stint at Arsenal. I don't think you can deny that, regardless of what you think, how it looks, with the eye test. Like, he did have decent output relative to what we've seen from him in this league. So, fair play. I don't see this player that left rehab and he's a new man. It's a different player. I do not see a different player. I see better, but I still see a lot of the same mistakes from him and just the lack of awareness in general with him. And I think, like, I know when we had Shadman on and he mentioned Gyökeres, like, if you had a killer like that in front of goal, I would be a lot
These
more
games
worried
would be
about.
different too.
Yeah, and I think, again, Havertz does have positive qualities. I also think there was a huge discussion with Arsenal needing a 9 and them not getting one. And again, the Arsenal fan base, similar to kind of how we were not getting Osimhen, like, we're fine with what we have. But it is interesting to see, I guess maybe one more talking point I kind of have that we didn't bring up too much. Odegaard being such a crucial player that he is, obviously the captain as well. And again, I know you mentioned as well, Facundo, that the run of fixtures in that time has been difficult away from home. But just to see a complete shift in style, I want to hear kind of what you think on this too before we get you out of here, of course.
Yeah,
Kind of what you think, how you think that looks going forward, because obviously these past few games have been very defensive. Got to keep what we have. So what do you think it looks like here on out?
I'll say this, right? Let's just say Odegaard's out for an extended period of time and we continue to play this 4-2-4, which I liked with Calafiori and Timber. I know Calafiori, people are going to say he didn't have a great game. He probably shouldn't have pressed Savinho that one time and it leads to the Haaland goal. But overall, I thought he was pretty solid and I liked what he brings to the table, especially attacking wise and just kind of like that fluidity of movement and like unpredictability. I would say imagine this team instead of Partey, that being Marino and Declan. That I think is better than Partey and Declan. I like the fact that when we have finally faced adversity, there are other solutions to it where we're still getting results. Granted, it was 5 points, we drew two, we won at Spurs. But I like that we're figuring out solutions as we go without key players. And that's something that I wanted to see. Like I brought up in the last podcast, we were extremely healthy all of last year. And we were spoiled in that sense because you're not really being tested. There hasn't been adversity. Like we had a healthy roster and we were 2 points short. The year before that, Saliba gets hurt and we couldn't cope. And we didn't deal with the adversity and we lost the league when we should have won the league. I think this team is progressing psychologically and they're maturing a little bit. And I'm glad that Mikel, as he's done the entire time, has kind of found solutions outside of that Saliba case because Rob Holding was just not at the level that you need. But he's finding solutions. He's still tweaking it. This isn't perfect. I think we're going to continue to improve when some of these guys get healthy and this team just kind of starts to like build and get to know each other. Like I'm really excited for the future. I'm glad that we're finding solutions. I'm also glad that we're facing adversity because it's going to make the team better, which is all I care about. Like at the end of the day, like I don't want it to be sunshine and rainbows all the time. Like I do want us to have tough moments and I want to see how we react. And I think this test of Spurs away, Atalanta away, and then City away was a massive test. And I'm disappointed only having 5 points. I would have loved to have had more, but considering the circumstances and how they've played and they're just finding ways outside of playing the pretty football to win games, like I am very happy with what I'm seeing so far. And it's encouraging for the future too.
Yeah. Well, Mila, any final thoughts before we move on to big boys?
I'll stay on and talk about your team. Why not?
Lovely.
Nothing about the game. It just no Walker. No more Walker. Maybe no Walker tomorrow.
Something we can all get behind.
Walker for the Carabao Cup.
Third round?
Yeah.
My skipper. All right. On to bigger and better things. Woke up at 4:30 and wasn't disappointed for the first time in a very long time. West Ham away is a fixture that I just see horrible things, all the time. Since they moved to London Stadium, we won once there with fans. Just everything about that stadium, it's just bad. And we go in 3 minutes in, Jackson scores. Oh, okay. And then scores again. And then, honestly, we're up 2-0 at half. I was just worried, okay, hold on, 2-0. Like, I've seen this team blow second half leads like it's no man's business. And minute and a half in, Palmer, post in, 3-0. And the rest of the game was smooth sailing. West Ham were no threat. I think that's a conversation for another day because, I mean, they're just bad. They're worse than kind of what we projected. But I kind of really want to focus on us. And I know people are saying it's a bad West Ham team. Like I said, it's a fixture we've had a lot of trouble with. It's a derby. And to go out there and win in that fashion, I think it's big. Kind of to what Facundo was talking about with Arsenal, who are way further along in this path. Their mentality, they're still working on that. So for this team to just go in there and boss up 3-0, get out of there, that's huge. Especially just after seeing last year, man. I can't harp on it enough with a very similar group of players, just disastrous, bar the last 5 games of the season. So, I mean, I think it just comes down to, I do have my talking points. Mila told me to write some down so I don't ramble like this. But I do want to start it off, and I'm glad you stayed for this, Facundo. Caicedo, oh my God. That was a monstrous performance in midfield. And I think last year, this fixture, his debut, concedes a penalty to a 10-man West Ham. We lost 3-1. So ever since then, it's been he's a flop. Obviously, 115 million, big price tag. He's 22 years old putting up these types of performances. He's won, I just pulled this up, 64.4% of his duels, highest percentage of any player to contest 50 or more. So he's winning his duels. 21 tackles, most in the league. Got an assist. His progressive passing is something that's criminally underrated given just the stronger sides of his game, if you will. Just a complete performance. And I think kind of going off of that, Cucurella, out of all of our players who we've experimented with when it comes to inverting the fullback, I think even going back to last year, that's our best option there. In terms of both being able to progress the ball, knowing where to position himself to take away defenders, and then also just the defensive stability there. When you have him and Caicedo to kind of let Enzo just kind of take away his defensive responsibilities, which is something he struggled with, to really find space and find passes and really link our midfield to our attack. Because I think the attack's not the problem anymore. It's just our defense. And the defense 2 clean sheets away in a row as well, something we haven't done in a very long time. I think Tosin being in there was a huge, huge difference to what we saw against Bournemouth. Being able to shift Fofana out to that right back spot and just have Tosin and Colwell on the ball. Again, Colwell, monster performance. We're starting to see him play as kind of what we thought he would be after his Brighton loan. Showed a lot of promise and then got stuck at left back and didn't really have a great year last year. So he's having just a great start to the season. You're kind of seeing him turn into a leader in a team that needs a leader. You lost Thiago Silva and just have a group of young kids, really. Enzo's worn the armband. Caicedo's worn the armband. Our captain never plays. So to see leaders grow and step up, that's really important here. And I think Colwell's showing that. Tosin's going to start to fight for a spot at this point. I think Disasi and Badiashile aren't in that conversation. Those are definitely depth pieces at best. But Tosin might take that spot from Fofana when everyone's fit. And then in terms of the players, the only other really one I want to harp on, Robert Sanchez. I mean, he's good again, but I've seen enough from him. I worded that horrifically.
This guy.
I worded that no. I worded that horribly. Sanchez was very good again, but I've seen enough from him to not trust him still. So I'm not going to say anything yet about Sanchez, but Nicholas Jackson, I've defended him for so long. I've been called lots of things, and I'm being proven right in real time. It's a great feeling. I think when it comes to Jackson, he's an enigma because he plays a position where, as Haaland has proven, the most important thing is your output. You don't have to have anything else, not to say that's Haaland, but if you are scoring goals, you'll be all right. And Jackson did everything but score the goals. He still had decent output last year, but it was the misses. The finishing, he just was not clinical. And to see him put those chances away yesterday, or what was that, Saturday morning now? I mean, it's night and day from last year. When we had these one-on-ones, last year was like, oh, please, find the pass or put it on target. And now slots it between the keeper's legs, outside the boot, like clearly playing with a different confidence. And him and Palmer, that link up is absurd. We need to start having that conversation too. And then just kind of harp on other main points that have been talked about, just the depth. You see Palmer comes off in the 60th. Jackson comes off. João Felix and Income. Sancho comes off. Pedro Neto. I think you're still going to see ups and downs with this team. I mean, just go, 2 weeks ago, Crystal Palace. That wasn't 2 weeks ago, but Crystal Palace, that was a game we absolutely should have won by multiple goals. We drew at home. We still haven't won at home. So it's going to be up and down for us, but I think, like I said before the season started, from what I've seen under this manager compared to what I've seen under the last manager, top 4 should absolutely be the expectation. Definitely have talked a lot here, so I'm going to let one of you boys step in and let me know what you think.
Robert Sanchez.
Robert Sanchez. Fair play.
I mean, he's had 2 really good games.
Yeah. For the City game, he's been great.
Especially shout out fantasy Robert Sanchez because he's dropped 25 points in 2 weeks. That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
But just on top of that, the defense is looking more solid the past 2 games. It's hard to say anything, like you were saying, when you're playing this West Ham team. They're leaking in goals. They have the most goals conceded outside
Mavropanos was
the
horrific.
relegation zone. Like, the relegation teams have more goals conceded than them, but they're the next up. They also aren't scoring. So it's just not like a prove it game for me. It is a good step in the right direction, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Granted, I did not watch it too early.
Yeah, I guess it's just more of what's on the eyes, because
of course,
even regardless of the results last year, Chitino, mate, good God, it was just a tough watch every time. You just have zero belief in what that team was doing, but I'm seeing semblances of play here, where there's an idea. These players are being instructed. Simple stuff. But it's not just, hopefully Palmer figures something out. And I think that's great. He's probably not going to put 20 plus goals out, but I mean, still goal contribution per game, we take those.
What did
Just
you just
And
say?
structure though.
I think the defense is also super important too because we were horrific last year defensively. So
What did you call Pochettino?
I've probably called him a bunch of different things that I will not repeat right now. But oh,
I know we've had this conversation and not trying to tie it back to Arsenal, but it reminds me a lot of us in our earlier development. And essentially my point with Chelsea is I have to wait until teams respect you and then start dropping into this low block because I think that's the next like stage in your development to where yes, Caicedo, great player, Nico Jackson, great goals.
best midfielder in the city, my friend.
Edson Alvarez looked like he couldn't outrun a snail
Oh,
down that left hand side when
respect Jackson's
Nico
pace, lightning
went down
quick.
there. And then they parted like the Red Sea on that through ball from Caicedo where
Well,
Jackson
because
made a nice
Mavropanos,
finish. So like to Mila's point, West Ham, not a great team. These are
atrocious.
not the teams that determine whether or not you're doing better. To your point, though, you are finally beating these teams, which you weren't doing in the past. So,
Bar
like
was
I
low.
said, and I've been optimistic about Chelsea. I've been on your side of
Yes,
saying like this
yes, you
team
have.
will improve. Like they are slightly getting better, but I would pump the brakes until teams start to respect you more and play you deeper, where now there's just less chances being given up, like the Caicedo through ball or Nico Jackson down the left wing. And I think that that's kind of important. But like Mila was saying, I think your defense is getting better. I don't think Fofana's going to get dropped. Like, I do
I
I'm
think
not.
agree with
Yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
Tosin, I think will play. Colwell will play. Cucurella will play. I think your back line's pretty solidified. I think you need probably one more center back, versatile wide defender, like a Vega kind of player to really
he's
turn your
nice too.
team into one of those elite teams. But like I've said all along, you remind me of like 21, 22, like all or nothing Arsenal, where it was just you played really well, you played really bad, and it was just kind of this. And then the next year you got better, teams respected you a little bit more, and then you had to figure out how to break the low block. And then once you do that and get to that stage, I think you should feel pretty confident about where your team's going because that's the next stage is when somebody starts respecting you and they're more defensive against you, these we're going to hit you on the counter goals no longer exist. And for a team like you with that much pace and that much quality in attack, those are gimmies. And I think once teams stop giving you
They
less of
weren't for
those,
years.
it'll be interesting to see now the midfield, which I think is the weakest part of your team. How creative can they be in terms of breaking down those low blocks? I'm being serious. Like outside of
No, no.
Caicedo, I think your
Well,
defense and your back line is better than the midfield product you have right now. And I think that's pretty fair.
does that include Lavia?
Yeah, you can throw them in there. You just have two
He's a
midfielders
player
that you're
too.
confident in. Like you're confident in
No,
that.
no, 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 no. We have Enzo, we have Santos, and Ugachukwu out on loan. We've got guys there. I think something that was underspoken about in this game was Enzo. A few people I know sent me the foot mob rating. It wasn't green. And just kind of send it off that and be like, oh yeah, see, Enzo still didn't do anything. And I think kind of to what I said earlier, being able to have Cucurella and Caicedo, two guys who are naturally going to be thinking more defensive, that gives Enzo way more freedom in the midfield to operate in the spaces he wants to operate in. Like for that second goal, for example, Cucurella being there drags out Paqueta, and then Enzo just plays what looks like just a really casual ball just on a plate to Caicedo because like he just sees these types of passes. When he is relied upon to do defending, which obviously out of context just doesn't sound good, he is going to be hampered. You're hampering that ability. What he does best is finding a pass, typically deeper. So I think in his own right, he's a brilliant player. We've talked obviously a lot about him too. Um, I think, to be perfectly honest, his skill set suits a different league, probably better than the Premier League does. I know you,
He
yeah, he'd
screams
be great
talent.
over there. He would be great in La Liga, but he's in the Premier League, so he's going to have to do a bit
MLS.
of running. That is crazy, bro. That is crazy. But I think, yeah, to your point, that was a problem going back to Tuchel. We couldn't break down a low block under him. To be fair, think of the players that were in that front three. I cannot believe he won a European trophy with that team. But we couldn't break down a low block since then. So I think it's a good point. It's been a problem for us for a long time, but I don't know. I see just again a consistent style of play, and also another thing for me that I've really seen as a difference is a proactive coach, not a reactive coach. He's more than willing to make subs at halftime. I've seen Poch bring on Cassidy and Gilchrist chasing a goal. Like this guy just had premeditated subs, had no clue what was going on, and then would just make defensive substitutions. Maresca is evaluating the game and making substitutions in order to play differently when things aren't working. And I think that alone gives me a lot of optimism in him being able to solve these puzzles of the low blocks, if you will. And again, we're going to have problems with it. We're still going to be inconsistent this year. I just think nowhere near to the level of last year. But yeah, I still think, barring an insane injury crisis again, this team should expect to finish top four. Also, just given the depth and quality there. But yeah, Amelia, no. I can't trust you guys to get us top five, top four. I want top four.
It's not United and Newcastle in the Champions League where they're not getting out of their
I don't
groups.
trust
They're
any of you guys.
legitimate teams.
I think we qualify for the Champions League.
Okay. And fifth.
They should.
How many points do you think you get out of your next 4 Prem games?
Let's see. What are those fixtures?
It's Brighton, Newcastle,
Your dad. You're playing your
Notts,
dad. You're playing
and
your father.
Forest.
Oh, I hate Brighton. I think we could beat Brighton at home. I think we beat Brighton at home. Forest fucking lost to Forest at home last year. We should fucking win that game. Liverpool
That
away.
has Callum Hudson-Odoi goal
That's your big
1-0
test.
written all over it.
Does it. Liverpool will be safe and do a draw. Newcastle will beat them 10. We're getting
Newcastle's
10 points,
pretty bad.
Mila.
I think the two interesting games are Forest because you're going to get that low block, and then Liverpool because I want to see you against a competent team.
I think that's a really interesting game for both teams. Liverpool not as much because they were able to play really well in Europe, so we've kind of seen them challenged and come out all right. But yeah, that's City. Again, going back to the City game, I don't even think we played that bad.
It was your
2-0,
first
yes,
game.
we lost first game under a brand new manager playing the best team in the world. I'm fine with 2-0, fam. But I don't think that was the worst of performances. And then I'm not even thinking about the Conference League run. Like those games just never happened. But yeah, draw to Palace, disappointing. Bournemouth squeaked out a win. Wolves, West Ham. So I can't ask for much more. Poch had like 5 goals in his first 5 games. Maresca has 11. And again, these are just numbers that I'm pulling here, but
So I think
I've just seen so much more.
has gotten
Yes,
better to where there's not as many
moving pieces.
there's not a clusterfuck at the club.
Yeah.
You have like
No.
50 guys like you did at the start of last season, where I think that structure now
40 players.
Coach could have been better with doing it now.
Coach is just where he needs to be.
That makes a difference in terms of like the structure of your club actually makes people feel like they have a direction. And
I agree. I'm still a Potter truther, but Potter came into. I don't think any manager would have figured out what Potter walked into. And obviously, it wasn't as bad for Poch, and it's even better with Maresca in terms of less shit going around and just being able to focus on his team. And again, just coming right away and saying, Sterling, I watched you last year. He said when he got hired, I watched every game multiple times. I believe him. Look at the players he said weren't good enough. He was right. Like, these guys do not fit that way of play, and they're not good enough. For what we aspire and what we're trying to achieve, those players aren't good enough. I just can't believe Chilwell's going to be in the squad tomorrow. I am furious about that. It's the one we couldn't get rid of, but
tomorrow you're furious he's going to be in the Carabao
I am
Cup
furious
game?
when I saw that he was.
Is it a Carabao Cup game?
Yeah, we're playing the league. We're playing top of the league, Barrow.
I gotta go, but I
All
wanted to stay on for that at least.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest
We'll
of the
talk about
podcast,
us
man.
more. Yeah.
Thank you.
Lovely.
See you guys.
Peace. Thank God. All right. Yeah, no, like for me, how I feel about Chilwell. I think pre ACL, he was actually real good, but he's not the same player anymore, and truly a detriment to watch. So I thought he was gone. I was happy about that, but we'll see. Better not cost us this game, man. I'll be pissed.
Dude, I don't think you need to worry.
I don't know, man. I was just really. We got rid of everyone else. We got rid of everyone else. I was so happy. We were so close, Mila.
Takes time.
Yeah, it does.
Can't get rid of all of them.
I think we've done great job in terms of just getting rid of as many of these guys as possible. But I don't know. I mean, I always kind of ramble when it comes to us. Do you have kind of any overarching final?
I just want to see your guys' next game, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way now. But again, I'm not like terrified to watch us play anymore.
The next game after the next prime game.
But I'm not like, oh shit, I have to watch Chelsea play again. Like, I'm actually excited to watch this product. And oh man, bro, we gotta post that Jackson clip again. Post it again.
No.
It's fucking post it again. He's brilliant.
No,
He is. This is why I was telling you guys we didn't need Osimhen. Like, I do think it would have been nice for him to not have all of the goal scoring on his shoulders. I don't think that's what he was brought in to do, and I don't think a player his age deserves that burden on him. But I also think he's well deserving of good game time and not just an automatic bench spot if you bring in a guy like Osimhen. So I would have liked, again, I've said it a million times, Duran and Jackson rotating the amount of games we had. That would have been my dream, but Jackson's proving he's that player. And I think we're finally seeing people just kind of want to make fun of one player in every team, right? Like, it's kind of Mudryk now with us. There's Anthony over at United, but there's always that guy.
It's easy to make fun of Mudryk and Anthony.
Of course, and I'm not denying any of this stuff. But my point is, they wanted it to be Jackson. He can play, though. You got to find someone else, bro. Like, he's a serious player. So I'm excited
that see it in the big games. That's my only.
That is true. He did have a honker against you guys last year.
A shitty West Ham
so
is
bad.
like.
Yeah. But again,
a lot of people can do that. But they were great finishes.
West Ham were awful. But you guys beat him 3-1. It was a good win for City. Statement win. This is what City do. So I'm not hearing it from the media. But again, yes, not a great team. I think this win ages like milk in terms of the quality of team we beat. But yeah, it's just up to these next few fixtures. I think Brighton's always going to be a challenge. I don't think they've lost yet. Forest, they also might have not lost yet. Forest look good too. Forest are good. Liverpool's obviously a challenge. Newcastle, yeah. These next games are really going to say something. Don't forget. Forest have been good. Respect Nuno? Is Nuno cooking?
He is kind of cooking. I don't really get.
Yeah, no, me neither. I mean, I picked him to get relegated, but I mean, they obviously have the. Fan. You got a fan in me.
Who's the top-rated player on their team?
Who is it?
Sangare.
Is it really?
It is.
Would you look at that?
Boom.
Dude, Chris Wood scored again. Dude, what the fuck is going on, man? I don't care. Still, Palmer hasn't gotten a pen yet. We're due.
No, it's probably for the best.
Yeah, it's true. He's still having a good year, man. 2 goals, 4 assists in 5 games. But again, and we talked about Palmer. He's not. I don't think he's one of those guys where you look at his goal and assist output and go, yeah, that was his impact on the game. I think he does so much more than that. But yeah, his output's obviously going to decrease. He's not going to get the same volume of penalties.
I mean, it might just come like games at a time too. He might just put out like 2 to 3 GA at one game and then the next game.
Take a break because you got so much talent around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who do you guys play in the cup?
I'm blanking. I've been thinking about fucking Arsenal all day. There's no way. Tweaking.
You guys got tomorrow?
Watford. We play Watford.
Watford? Oh, it's not too bad.
It'll be okay.
A little Nunes sesh?
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well, until next time, you guys are probably about to get another pre-recorded after this. It's going to be one of our lists. We'll probably be back on at some point next week to talk about the games, yeah?
Game match. Match reviews.
We'll talk about previews. Unless we lose, then I'll probably say I'm sick or something. But until next time, thank you for watching. Peace.
Nice.
All right. I love the ring.
2 words for him. Different gravy.
Glorious goal! wreathed in red.
We're really seeing the most extraordinary finish here.
On this day of days, has he delivered? Just magnificent, potentially life-changing. That's football. Minute you let it under your skin, then you begin to make it better.